I clicked into the email and it said, congratulations, you've won. And just remember that feeling of just like shock.
Yeah, there are certain things that happen in your life where everything aligns.
We did everything in our power. Literally every conversation we had, we're just saying like, we're winning this thing, we're winning this thing, we're winning this thing.
This episode of the Dojo podcast dives into what it's really like to be a young artist fighting to make it in electronic music today. Darkhorse and Grouse are two rising talents from Sydney's underground house scene, from winning the ANTS Next Gen competition with a mix entirely made of their own productions to throwing their own parties and flying in heavyweights like Max Dean to Australia.
In terms of the ANTS competition, say I'm a young producer that wants to enter next year and I want to win. How would you go about it?
Yeah, so I probably have two main tips that I'd give. The first one would be...
Right, guys. So welcome to the Dojo podcast. So first of all, for those people watching that might not know who you are, I want you guys to introduce yourselves. Obviously, Sean and Bailey, I've known you for a while now, but introduce yourselves under your artist names and kind of like what you do in this business currently.
Yeah, so we are Darkhorse and Grouse. I'm Darkhorse, that's Grouse. We've been in the scene for probably coming up to almost 6 years now. Or yeah, 5 or 6 years, definitely. We've actually known each other for about 20 plus years. We went to primary school and high school together. I don't think we said a word to each other the whole time, but once we'd finished school, just by...
you weren't friends in high school back then?
No, so Sean was the year above me, and we kind of knew each other and just like would say hello, but that was kind of it. And then there was just a chance trip to Ibiza, I guess, where it all happens, and we linked up there, and then from there it was us and Brody as well, who you know, and we just said we'll take it back to Sydney. And like at this point we didn't even know how to DJ or anything about events, but we just loved the scene. Obviously fell in love with that was our first time going to Europe, so doing the summer there, and just fell in love with everything there. And then since then, just I guess I'll let Sean talk a bit about our projects that we've kind of got.
Yeah, I'll ask some questions. I want to go right back to the beginning, and I want to skip all over those interesting parts as well. So, like, let's put on the brakes a little bit and go even way back. So, I've known you guys as first people that just came to my gig. Then I've known you as promoters, and then as artists, also artists on my label. But I want to get right back to the beginning, because I think the reason why I'm doing this interview with you guys, because I feel it's interesting to talk to, people like, Danny Howard or Nick Fanciulli, and, hear their wisdom and what they have done to get to where they are. But you guys are like up and coming artist in the trenches right now, and I really want to dig into your story a little bit, all the things that you had to do to get to where you are right now. And you've given me like a really good introduction there, Bailey. I want to sort of dig a little bit more deeper into the beginnings. This is like, how did you first get into house music? Maybe individually you could answer.
So growing up in school, all I wanted to be was a footballer. I didn't really have too much care for music. Like, I always enjoyed listening to music, but never envisioned like becoming a DJ and producer. And then it was when I was about 18 or 19, and it was the last season I played football, because then I was going on a big European trip, which ended up being...
Are we talking soccer or Aussie rules football?
Soccer football.
Okay, good.
And then, the last season that I played, I was heading to Europe for 3 months, so I kind of had to give up football then. And then on that trip was where I kind of really discovered house music. I kind of enjoyed all sorts of music, but obviously Ibiza's, the home kind of the house music.
Was there one specific sort of night that you can pinpoint it down to? Was it just being immersed on the island? How did you guys pick Ibiza as as a destination in general? Was it for the house music, or was it just like, we're just going to go out and party, basically?
I think it was mainly just, we're going to go out and party. But
right.
So when we were going to Ibiza before that, Brody and myself, we met a few of our mates in England, and Bailey is also mates with our mates. And so we were saying to them, do any of you want to come to Ibiza for closing week? And they all said no, and that's who we were kind of asking to come with us. And then Bailey said, I'll come. And then just from there, that trip was where we kind of found our love for it.
Yeah, I think that trip was definitely like the start of it all properly. Like I was kind of tinkering around with DJing at home. I have like a similar kind of story to Sean. I grew up playing rugby league, which is like a variant of rugby, which is pretty popular obviously across Europe, but I grew up playing that. That's all I wanted to do. And then it got to a point where I wasn't really going to crack on to play professionally. And I was getting quite a few serious injuries. So I was like, it's time to pull the brakes there. And then I was like, I need a new hobby. And I said,
it's a tough sport. It's a tough sport.
Yeah.
That one.
And I'm not exactly a rugby prototype. So, and then I think from that point, I was like, I need a new hobby. And at that time, I started going out to a few festivals and things here just with mates, just for a bit of fun. And then kind of like dabble with DJing a bit and then head over to Europe around that same period Sean did. I remember the actual first time that I thought like this is what I want to do forever was actually at Hideout Festival. So I think we literally been there for 5 or 10 minutes and it was the opening party of the whole event. And it's just like, because I mean, you know, like our scene here, I love the scene in Sydney, but it's a whole different scale. It's a whole different kettle of fish across the pond in Europe. So I think seeing that for the first time and just the vibe, like we don't really have any venues like the spot at Zurcher Beach where they host Hideouts, like incredible as well, like all the clubs there. And I think just like the overall atmosphere and everything. And within literally 10 minutes, I said, that's where I want to be up there. So I want to do that. And then over that summer, we did a few more festivals. We did Tomorrowland. I did Ibiza with my mates who Sean just mentioned as well. And then we had that final trip together to Ibiza for closings. And yeah, from that point, it was pretty much like a mutual kind of love and obsession for the music that I guess like we kind of grew at the same time. Weirdly as well, we're actually chatting to some people recently, some mates, and we worked out too that like in my studio over there, I've got a stack of, I don't know if you'd know Wild FM. It was like basically like this Eurodance kind of style of music that was really popular in Oz through the 90s and 2000s. And my stepdad and my dad were quite into it. So I've got like a stack of CDs still that they've passed on to me. So I was listening to a lot of that when I was younger. And I think Sean was the same as well, like just around the house listening to that. So maybe it was kind of embedded into our heads nice and early, but we just needed to be, I guess, in the right setting and feeling the atmosphere for it to kind of click into gear.
I always feel like with many backstories, I hear that some sort of seed is planted in childhood, could be like just some kind of cool music that you're into, but like where something about the music feels special to you, and then that gets then triggered, once you come of age and then hit the clubs and, dive into the deep end. So getting into house music in Ibiza is like really amazing, sort of kind of origin story almost, because most people don't start clubbing in Ibiza. They don't start getting exposed to house music. Do you think that seeing it done on the level and with a professionalism that it's done in Ibiza kind of contributed to your decision to see this as a career path early on? Because I remember I had a similar experience, like way back when I started raving, and I went to a big rave called the Tribal Gathering. This was a big rave series at the time in the late 90s, and I just remembered being there with like 25,000 people at this rave and thinking, this is an industry. Like, this is not just some crazy people getting together and playing a bit of music. No, it's an industry and people making a living in this, and there's jobs and there's, the DJs. And so I guess my question is, getting exposed to it in Ibiza, did that contribute to like your decisions to like wanting to go for it, or like how did it influence you?
I think definitely long term it's influenced us. Like everything we kind of do, we always reference back to Ibiza. But at the start, I didn't see it as a career. It was just a hobby. Right. Once we decided wanted to go back to Sydney and do it, it was just a hobby, something fun to do, like something we really enjoyed. And then, pretty quickly, I think I realized this is something that I really want to do long term. When we first got back, Brody and I were actually sharing a pair of decks. It's a little DDJ 400. It's kind of, I feel like, what everyone starts. And then he would have it for a week. I would have it for a week. I would drop it off after work to him. And then, I think it was after a couple of weeks, I was like, I need to get my own pair of decks. And then, it kind of grew from there. And I think Bailey had just started producing or been producing for a few months. And then pretty quickly, I kind of followed his lead into the producing side of things. And everything just grew really quick. The more events we did, the bigger the love. It made us realize it's something that we want to do as a career.
Okay, I want to dig into that as well, because like at this point now, right? You've gone to Ibiza, so if you've gone down the rabbit hole, so to speak. You had your first exposure to the culture. You're thinking, hey, like this is something that I want to be involved more in. Maybe not like thoughts forming in terms of, hey, this is going to be a career, but I want to be around this thing. I want to be part of the culture. I think that's probably like where most of us sort of, have the initial love with a culture. We just want to be around it. We just want to be exposed to it. So like I've always known, like as long as I've known you guys have also put on your own parties, and I want to get to that. Like, so when did you first have the idea to start putting on events, and how did you get started with that?
Well, that was actually part of the conversation we had in Ibiza that time when we had the big kind of epiphany moment. That was one of the things we said was like, at this point too, none of us had ever had a gig, like still didn't even had a DJ, but we're like, oh, we'll go back to Sydney and we'll do events. Because obviously that side of it, we just thought it was we thought it was so much fun, like seeing that, just like you said, being around it and just the culture and just like going out to house music and having like dancing and having a good time. Like obviously that's like the allure, along with I think the travels are probably made like a big allure for us for wanting to do it as a career. But it was actually weird because around the time it was like once we got back to Sydney and we literally had our first ever event booked in, and on that day they brought in the first lockdowns with COVID. So the event couldn't go ahead. And by the time that all kind of wound up, like however long later, we still like, we kind of wanted to push ahead and do the events. One, because we hadn't been out for so long, but two, like we couldn't really network. We couldn't meet anyone. Like the reason we mainly started like pushing with the events as well was like we weren't getting booked anywhere. And like that was kind of, we wanted to play out, obviously no crazy shows at that point, but we just use it, I guess, as an outlet for us to have a bit of fun and like actually play and get some experience in front of people, because there were people that were, maybe not giving us a look in when we first started, which I guess just happens. Like it's kind of nature of the beast, kind of have to earn your stripes kind of thing. But like looking back now, part of like, I guess, reflecting in the last year or so since we've had a good few wins is like looking back on the journey, and like they were really good days when we just like kind of very naive and didn't know anything about the scene that much, but all we knew was we just wanted to go out and have a good time, and we really did in those early days. And I think obviously the more it progresses, the more kind of, and you get into that frame where it becomes to look like your career, like it maybe becomes a bit more serious, like you kind of can get caught up in a lot of things and you're kind of riding the wins and losses a bit more. But those early days was just like a lot of fun to look back on. Like it was just a good time with all of our community.
But like I think it's really interesting that you guys came back from Ibiza and you immediately decided you wanted to have your own event. That's like, I feel that's an unusual decision. Like a lot of people sort of fret over that or think it over for a long time. Should I, shouldn't I? Like kind of just to jump in and start it. Like I know that first event didn't come about because of COVID, but like, how did you get a venue? How did you know how to work out a deal with a venue? Like, how did you like put a lineup together? Like, I mean, you don't just put on a party, right? There's a lot that goes into it. So how did you know all of those things? And what was the learning curve like when you eventually did start put on parties, in terms of what you need in production and all of the things that go into putting on an event? How did you learn those things?
Well, yeah, I guess a lot of it kind of came down to us kind of being naive and fearless. Obviously when you're a lot younger, you don't know a lot of stuff. So it's like what you don't see, you don't know kind of thing. But there was a local venue called the Flinders. It's pretty much the venue where a lot of people back in the day would kind of get their first gig or run their first events. So yeah, we got in touch with.
So management that's open to new people coming in.
Definitely. The club's actually turned into a little hard techno club now. It's quite a popular place for hard techno. But back in the day, it was kind of a real startup venue. And yeah, I think we just dropped them an email. We might have known the promoter. But we just got in touch, said we wanted to do an event. We're just a bunch of young kids that want to do like a house music event. It wasn't anything too specific you needed to provide. And yeah, when we launched the event, I think, because obviously being in COVID time, there was restrictions on how many you could have in the venue. So I think the venue was capped at 150 and we sold that out in minutes. I think it was their quickest ever sellout. I think it's literally 5.
How did you manage to set it out so quickly? Did you did word get about, like, I don't know, like in your circle of friends? Like, did you, like, how did that happen? Like, what was the groundswell thing? Like, was it just pure luck? Like, there must have been something that happened.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I think Sean just touched on like the fact that it was coming out of COVID. So there was a few rounds in Oz anyway, where it was sort of in and out. And every time you would come out of a lockdown, it would just be this massive buzz. So our first sort of 4 or 5 events that we ever did.
Pent up demand, so to say, basically.
Yeah, just like a bunch of 19, 20-year-old, 21-year-old kids that haven't been out for however long, just wanting to have a good time.
Ever, maybe.
Yeah.
Ever at this point, you know, maybe because they turned 18 or whatever when they're during COVID, and it's like, oh my God, like, you know, like I've never been out, and I've been able to go out for like a couple of years already. So it's crazy that we had a whole generation that had to go through that. Okay, so pent up demand. So the stars aligning basically, and you guys getting lucky kind of with a lot of young people wanting to getting involved in the scene basically.
Yeah,
right?
we have a laugh about this quite often. It's funny to look back on now. At the time, we're kind of stressing, but because our first 4 or 5 events did really well in that regard, in terms of like it was after lockdowns, and then we had a really solid event. I think it was in April of 2021 or 2022, and then so being naive and young, we thought, okay, well next time we just did 400 people, so next time we'll do 800 people, for example, and then we did it.
This is easy. Yeah. It's easy. Like we got this.
We got this covered. So we launched the event, and I think the first night we sold like 11 tickets, when usually we do like 150, 200. So we logged on to actually buy a ticket just to see if the tickets were working or not. And then when we realized that the website wasn't glitching, we were kind of stressing out a little bit. But like I said before, at the time, we were really stressing about, in hindsight, like they're all lessons. Like, you know, like the promoting game, especially these days, like it's a lot harder to move tickets these days. I feel like with everything being so like competing for market share, and just I think people's like dollars a little bit tighter as well, which everyone's feeling the pinch of it.
It's really tough.
So
it's really tough and very competitive, very tough, very competitive. And, you know, like obviously having an event that doesn't go well can be very stressful, you know, because you have to have all of these investments that go in it first. But like, I mean, okay, like, you know, you had that run of sort of first events that went very well, and, you know, you can call it luck, but then also like, I don't know, like fortune, what did you say? Fortune
favors the brave.
Favors the brave, you know, exactly, you know. So like, you know, you guys were brave with it, and then that you became fortunate. But how did you learn, like in that setup, in the first 4 events, was there any sort of additional production that you had to put in, or was the venue like sort of plug and play where you can just arrive and, you know, start playing, everything is set up? Did you have to have extra sound, lighting, like all of these things that I know that you put into your brand? Like, did you learn that then, or was it in the beginning sort of like a pretty easy setup?
So I think right from the bat, we've always kind of, the 3 of us have had a good work ethic. Like we've always wanted to do things to a high standard. And yeah, so for the first event, it was under our parent brand now called Utopic, and our theme back then was like a spaceman. So we had like a space sort of theme. So we had, like loads of inflatables and stuff for the first event. Like it looked cool for what it was. And we had some like inflatable planets and stuff. In terms of sound, it was just what was set up in the club, but we definitely tried to add like little bits, so it wasn't just a standard night in the club. We always wanted to go that bit above and beyond. And then obviously the more events we did, the bigger the production.
I feel like we've always been quite good, like, I don't know if you want to call it like dreamers, or maybe like quite ambitious with whatever we set out to do. Like obviously, what's the saying? Champagne tastes with something budget. Anyway, like even from the start, like we've always had big dreams, big visions, like wanting to do things, like Sean said, to a high standard. So we always try and bring like a unique kind of feel to our events at that point. Even like looking back on it now, like probably doing a little bit more than most promoters would think to do at that point of where we were at, which was I think something that's always just kind of been within us, just thinking like, what can we do a little bit different? How can we stand out? Even though none of us have like a history, like any prior experience with the branding exercise or anything. But then we also did a Space Cowboy event, which went really well. And then our first one where we went proper, this was actually probably one of our first major losses, so to speak, as well. We did I think it was like our third maybe third year celebration. So we've been doing events for 3 years, did a party, and it was sort of a DIY setup at an outdoor venue in the summertime, but it was raining in the day. But the tickets weren't moving as we'd planned, but we'd gone all in on this one, like spent like a fair bit of money on it, sitting like a Wonderland theme. So it was really cool setup. We had like the big inflatable mushrooms, and we had bumped in all our own sound. We had like similar to how Elro do like the paid actors and things as well. So that was actually a really cool setup. And I think like even though the event didn't go as we wanted it to, like it was just another sign, I guess, like looking back that we were always trying to do things a little bit differently and just like thinking outside of like we took a punt on something and it didn't go as planned, but that kind of didn't really deter us at the time, which is also, I guess, like a positive to look back on through that time.
Yeah, it's really positive, and it's really important, that perseverance, because this game can be unpredictable. And, like a lot of the sort of big brands that I know and the founders of the big brands that I know, and especially the ones where I've had like sort of deeper insight into how that brand was built, for example, like Fuse London, because I was a resident early on and I'm a good friends of Enzo Siragusa. They all started for the same reason. It's like the same reason that you guys stated. It's like just wanting to have a place to play. Just wanting, a place where you can play music and share music with people. And then learning the game along the way, just kind of stumbling into it quite naively, but learning along the way, getting better at it, failing, getting better at it, failing, getting better at it. And it's really interesting to see, like, sometimes when people try to enter this game with a lot of money at like a very high level. So like, every now and then you'll get these promoters or these dudes or whatever, you're not even promoters, but people that want to be part of the scene, and they made their money elsewhere, and they go like, I'm going to go all in with this and this and this, and they put on something big and nobody shows up, and they don't really understand that you've got to build it from the ground up, and that you've got to go through all of those different stages. It's almost like, the perfect example for that is Fire Festival. Do you remember the documentary about that? Like some guy thinking, hey, like, I'm not gonna learn this business. I'm just gonna go in at the top and I'm gonna do something that nobody's ever done, and it just fails, So at this stage, you've been putting on parties for years now. Just so like our listeners kind of understand like at what kind of level these parties went to in Sydney and how influential you guys were for the house music scene. Can you name some of the guests that you've had at your party over the years?
Yeah, so I think we really sort of started to step things up artist-wise once we created our brand Switch, which obviously you played at. And yes, so some of the names we've had Max Dean, Luke Dean, yourself, Murphy's Law,
Amazing Tomlinson,
Robbie Doherty,
Gaskin,
yeah. So obviously our sound, we take influence from mainly that UK house sound.
Yeah, you'd be like, I mean, that just kind of illustrates you're really becoming sort of like a serious brand in Sydney that's bringing over a certain sort of brand of house music that's very popular in Europe, getting more popular in the US, and maybe just starting to bubble up in the in Australia as well. What's the state of the scene like over there right now in terms for this kind of sound?
Yeah, so this like house is sort of slowly starting to come back around, I think, but it's still very like 140, 145 BPM ravey sort of focused, I would say, and also hard techno is also quite popular. Probably about 7-8 years ago, just before we were getting into the scene, house used to be absolutely massive. That was probably like the main sort of sound. And then just obviously as things changed, sounds changed, all that faster ravey stuff sort of started to come in.
I definitely noticed things speeding up in Australia. Yeah,
definitely. It's the main sound out here. Like most festivals these days, the majority of the lineup will definitely be on the faster side of things. But a good thing that we're seeing is with a lot of festivals this year, there's a lot more house acts. Like you've got Chris Dussy, Josh Baker, Prosper, Omar Plus that are all on these festivals at the end of the year. So it's definitely encouraging to sort of see things slowly starting to swing back around.
Nice. To me, like, it was really always just really impressive how you guys went about this. And like, I want to tell the story like how we first met. So I was playing at Lost Sundays in Sydney, and you guys kind of hit me up and said like, if you could swing by and introduce yourselves. And then we kind of met from there. You guys did me a massive favor and were shooting some footage for me. I just pushed my camera into your hand and says like, you're on shooting duties. And you did some great footage. And then we kind of stayed in touch. I did the podcast with you. And then, you know, we obviously stayed in touch because you guys were kind of keen to release on the label on Meta. And you always sent demos over. And from the beginning, I really liked your music and it was really, really strong. But then like I hadn't found that specific track that I wanted to sign yet. But you guys kept sending and were persistent with it. And then eventually like, you know, like a couple of tracks just hit. And I was like, yeah, these are great. I want to sign these. And then not much later, you know, something really incredible happened. But I don't want to take that away. Like I want you guys to tell the story. So how did this year's little excursion to Ibiza come about?
Well, earlier this year, towards the back end of last year, we actually decided that given the fact that we were running our parties together, playing most of the shows together by that point, well, I think we're kind of both thinking it for a while. We've done a couple of interstate trips to Queensland and Melbourne as well, and then a trip to New Zealand last year for a show, and we just kind of came to the conclusion that we'd just tackle it together and become a duo. So we just released music together, play other shows together. Like I said, we're doing everything together. So we thought it makes sense. We can just combine all of our efforts. Like we're both working hard towards the same thing. So just kind of.
And that can be a multiplier as well, actually. Like two people together doesn't just double your power. Like it gives you a multiplier because whenever one person doesn't feel creative, maybe the other one can have a go at some tracks. So yeah, that's a great decision to do. It's harder, but it's also makes certain things easier.
Yeah. So then it was around, I think, April or May that ANTS did put out that they were doing their annual next gen competition. So we thought, yeah, and we didn't really think too much. Like we never sat there and thought, okay, we're gonna win this. We just thought we'll do it. Like we'll give ourselves a shot to be in it, and it's also a good chance for us that we'll get some nice assets out of it, and we'll say we're gonna be a duo from here on out. So that was kind of the aim, is like do the mix, see where it lands. If we get through to the next stage, all good. If not, it's a good piece of content for us to say we did a mix for ANTS and we're going to be a duo now.
It's a nice goal to set, to kind of set you on that path. Okay, so you entered?
Yeah, so we entered, and then it was a Friday morning in Sydney, and about 4 a.m., 5 a.m., just with the time differences. So we woke up and we had notification that ANTS had tagged you in a post. So we checked the post out and they'd named us in the top 10. So
wow,
we were
okay.
Like you can imagine how much we're like kind of freaking out low-key at this point.
Yeah, we were kind of stressing at that point. We were kind of stressing a bit at that point as well, because we had woken up and with the time difference, it had been announced for quite a few hours, and then I think it was not the other 9 contestants, or 8 of the other 9, had all done a post and got all their mates to comment on it. So I had a lot of anxiety waking up thinking, oh my God, like we're going to get snowed under here. And then,
and because that's how the system worked, right? Like you had to go to so you had to get that social media reaction to kind of progress into the next round, correct?
Definitely.
Yeah. So but at that point, we one other thing to note, I guess, about the submission for the mix is that the mix was 100% original music. So it was all of our tunes. We featured both the tracks from the Meta EP as well. So shout out to you there. But yeah, so we put the mix in, made the top 10, and then within 3 or 4 hours, we were in the studio kind of brainstorming what we can do next, because we were kind of sitting there thinking, like, there's 10 people here. Realistically, how are they actually going to separate the mixes? Because they didn't kind of outline that it was going to be about the actual mix itself or the marking. It was kind of just like, we're going to announce the winner in a couple of weeks. So we're like, what can we do to put ourselves in the best position to win and do everything that we possibly can, take it out of our hands, because you never know when an opportunity like this will come again. So we really
exactly.
So we were brainstorming ideas, came up with a plan for our socials, which in our opinion is what got us over the line in the end. So the next day, we were down at the Sydney Harbour Bridge recording content, which is something that's like weird, because on one hand, like when we're looking at it, we're going, oh, most of the finalists, like they're incredible artists and they're from the UK or they're from Spain. We're kind of like, are they really going to want to take a couple of lads from Sydney out to Ibiza. Like, it just felt like if that was kind of the main stress going through our head. So we're like, what can we do to kind of flip that around a bit? And we thought, let's use what we have. Like, let's control what we can control, and let's use all of our assets to our advantage. So I think one of our assets, like, I guess, like, character-wise, is that we kind of have, like, go-getters in that regard. And then secondly, no one else has the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Opera House. So we're the only two people that can leverage the fact that we live in
iconic landmarks.
Yeah. So, and all of our mates were super good. Like, we're within hours or an hour of us saying, like, who's around tomorrow to jump into some morph suits for us at Harbour Bridge. And bear in mind, like, a couple of the boys that helped us out, like, one of them was on crutches, hit the crutches.
Okay. So hang on a second. I saw that. So that wasn't something that ANTS had planned or whatever. You went ahead and got the sort of ANTS suits, like, to do something that basically corresponds to the entire branding of their brand, like, of what they do.
Yeah, we really wanted just the marketing just to stand out so much.
It's very, very smart.
Yes.
I love that initiative. I love that thinking is like, what can we do to push their brand? Not think of your brand first, but what we do to push their brand. Because in the end of the day, if they're giving you a platform, but you can push their brand, that makes it a no-brainer for them. And I think that kind of out-of-the-box thinking, I have to agree, that's probably what pushed it over the line for you guys. So please explain exactly what you then did in that social media clip.
Yeah, so that day we found out we made the top 10 after we'd got in the studio and started planning, messaged our mates around, tomorrow we've got some ideas. We went to quite a few costume stores to try and buy the morph suits, and I think 2 or 3 of them was sold out, and then it was getting late on the Friday night. So it's like, shit, like, when we're struggling to find something here. And then we ended up finding one. We bought, I think it was 10 morph suits we bought, and they're actually quite expensive, spent a few $100s on it, but it worked out well in the end. And yeah, so the next day we're down at the Harbour Bridge. I think we filmed 3 or 4 different type of content pieces. The first was a video. The video was first.
Yeah, so like you said, we were trying to tap into, I guess, like, showing that connection between us and their brand, and that we understood and we fit into their world as well already. Like, it was just like a natural thing that we would be able to
just make it easy for them. Yeah.
So the first asset was like the concept of the video. It was, and one thing about ANTS, like, we kind of dissected how their branding is, what they're using. So the morph suits was one, but then you doing everything in black and white was another, because they do black and white filters on a lot of their content. So that was something we flagged. The first video concept was like the signal was getting louder, the colony's calling. So that's what we kind of based it around. And it was us sort of darting around the city with like a fake radio transmitter, like picking up the signal that ANTS Next Gen. And then we finished up at the steps down at the area called the Rocks, where you can see the Harbour Bridge, and the camera kind of pans up, and there's the editor did a really good job putting like a big ant on the bridge with the logo. So that was the first one. And then after that, we also had our mates who, mind you as well, like, I've honestly so much respect for everyone that like helped us out and got behind. Like, we're very grateful for everyone that got behind us for it, because like we had there was some of our good mates that were on their final exams for uni that took a break from studying, that were under the pump. One of the boys was on crutches with a broken leg, and he ditched the crutches just for the photo. One of them he plays professional sport, like, for a big club, and he came between training sessions. Like, everyone was just like, I think they could kind of see how much it meant to us and how much work we'd put in over the years, and they were like, yeah, we're there, kind of thing. So then secondly, we took, and shout out my girlfriend and her friend as well. I can't leave them throughout or get a hiding, but we took photos with the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House, with all the morph suits there as well. And then the third asset was us kind of sitting on the steps with the Opera House in the back. And we both had a photo from this same trip in 2019 when we fell in love with the music at Ushuaia. So what we did was a carousel. So it was us pretending to look at the phone, or I think we were looking at the photos anyway, but the thing was we were looking at the phone, like, kind of laughing. And then the next slides were us at ANTS, and we're kind of saying, like,
right,
2019 to now, this is the progression. So that was the first 3 initial, and then I'll let you talk about the last asset we did.
Yeah, the last asset was probably my favorite one. Got a few more of our mates again, and essentially they were receiving a text message on their phone saying Darkhorse and Grouse, ANTS Next Gen, top 10. And then, so they were sending text messages to each other, and we're doing them in all different settings. So like Brody, we went to his work, he was pouring a beer, he receives a text message. Another one of our mates, he's working on site, he gets a text message. And then, yeah, we ended the scene where we were at the local cafe and we created an ANTS newspaper. So we pulled out different like ANTS content and stuff, put it on the paper, and then the article we made, it was like Darkhorse and Grouse. I think did we say winners of the ANTS Next Gen? And just, yeah, like the little details that we put into it. And like, hopefully, I think that probably went a long way into allowing us to win the competition.
Well, it's really so interesting to unpack all of this, because there is not just one thing about going the extra mile. There's many instances of going the extra mile and what I call just exceeding expectations, you know? First of all, let's get started with a mix of all original productions, right? There's very few people, DJs, that have even been in the game for a long time that can do a mix of just original productions that's all current and would fit into a set. Maybe you can do like, you know, put all your works in and, you know, go over like a span of like a couple of years, whatever, you know, but to have like really current all your own productions, I think that was the first factor that was going to make you stand out, right? So, you know, if you're somebody from the ANTS team looking at, you know, mixes that they like, and you know they're bumping along to your mix, and they're like, okay, let's have a look at this track list, and then the track list only has one artist, you know, that's going to raise eyebrows, let's put it that way. And then on top of that, if you're making it easy for them because you understand branding, you understand, you know, how to create a buzz online, you tell stories, you rope all your friends into sort of doing these exciting scenarios and going the extra mile again in terms of doing the social media, that just going to make it a no-brainer for the guys to pick you. And congratulations. I mean, it's really amazing that you've done that and that you put your creative minds to work to sit down together. So it's like, what can we do? Like, what can we do to get this over the line? Because, you know, as you said, you know, like these opportunities don't come along often. And once you get past the ball, you got to go run with it, you know. Like you can't, you know, it's a rugby theme here for you, Bailey. But like it's like, yeah, it's so true though, isn't it? Like, yeah, you just got to go run with it once you get past this opportunity. And if you don't, like, people say like, oh, it's never too late and you can always have another go. And it's like, but yeah, there's some key events in your life where things fork off one way and then to another way, and you can all bring them back to like, you know, some sort of pivotal events that happened in your career. And I probably think that will be like, looking back 10, 15 years, that could be one of those moments.
It's a sliding doors moment, like an opportunity like that, especially once you get into the top 10. Obviously, when you just first enter the competition, there's 1,500 people. It's like, it is what it is. Like, we're probably not going to make it, but let's have a crack. But then once you get into the top 10 and there's only 9 other contestants, it's just not an opportunity you can let slip. So we did everything in our power we kind of could do. And we just said to each other, like, leave it all on the table. If we don't win, we don't win. But like, we want to make it look like if we don't win, everyone's like, these guys should have won. And that was just the mindset that we had. Like, let's just do everything we can.
I think as well, to look back, like I said before, we've just been, like, obviously had this really good win, and reflecting on the whole like journey over the last 5 or 6 years, and like 2024, like behind closed doors, like between me, Sean and Bro, like it was a really tough year for us, like to the point where we were really quite, like as far as the industry and everything, like really quite down and out, like to the point where we never would give it up because we love it too much. But it was kind of getting to the point where it was like, this is getting really, really stressful. And we, like through that period, I don't know why we still like believe that kind of like things are going to turn around, but we'd always just say to each other, like, the night's darkest before the dawn, that kind of like thing, like we're gonna get through it, like we'll be all right. And then this kind of happens the next year. Like, it's weird too, like I've got like a on my wall, I've got like a I made like a series of photos in my bedroom wall. So it shows the progression of every year. So it's got us three at our first event, and it shows up until now. And on 2025's one, I just put like a big arrow going up. And at the start of the year, like me and my girlfriend were chatting and I was saying like, oh, I wonder what's going to come this year. Like, I never would have even thought this was around the corner. So like the takeaway, I guess, is like, you never know when your next big win's coming. Like if you just keep consistent and like if you truly, I guess, believe in what you're doing, like to be one of the main things that we were so happy about winning too is the fact that obviously like everything that comes with winning in terms of the actual package itself, but the fact that ANTS, who are like run by the Night League, and Jan Pissenham, who's at the top of the game, you know, owns Universe, High Shui, all these clubs. And
yes, I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than that in terms of the brand and the connection that brand, the deep connections the brand has to the island and to the entire industry.
100%.
They're like very, very, very relevant and very influential people there. You know, like I talked about Jan in one of the previous podcasts together with Nick Fanchuli, who's obviously been part of that brand since the beginning, and it's been very good to him. You know, all amazing. You know, so like this is so inspirational to me that you guys kind of have this sort of go-getter attitude, and just like, we're going to create our own. Like, there's no party in Sydney where anybody wants to book us. We're going to create our own party. We're going to figure it out as we go along. We're just going to start. Let's start and figure things out later. Basically, that's the kind of attitude that'll get you far. And now I kind of want to get a little bit into like what then actually transpired. So because we haven't actually talked since your return, so all of this is new to me now as well. I haven't heard the stories yet. So I guess ANTS got in touch then after, like, so first of all, which one of those videos that you just talked about, which one made it in the end? Which one pushed you over the edge? And was that it? Like, did they just then pick the winner and announce it, or how was it all handled?
I don't think there was one specific video that or like one bit of content piece that sort of got us over the line. It was after we had put out all our content pieces. I think it might have been maybe 5 or 6 days out from them announcing the winner. We got an email to say, you guys have been selected as the winner. So Bailey called me at 4 o'clock in the morning. I thought it was my alarm going off for the gym, because we both get up at 4:30 or 5 for the gym. And yeah, when the phone was ringing, I thought it was the alarm, and then I checked that it was Bailey, and I answered. I thought something might have been wrong calling me that early. And he's like, "Pack your bags, we've won." I didn't know what to say. We're on the phone for about 15 minutes, and all I could just say was like, what the fuck? So excuse my language, but yeah, it was just it was the most insane,
beautiful moments.
Yeah,
the actual email when it came through. So like from when we made the top 10, like it was pretty, not sleepless nights, but it was like constant like checking the phone at all hours, like waking up, just like kind of like, oh, like when would we find out before they announced it, kind of thing. And then when it came around, the actual email header, they're cheeky, they said, "Your journey isn't over." So half asleep, I've read that as email from ANTS, and it said, "Your journey is over." So I'm like, 4 a.m, I was like, oh, how am I going to process it by myself right now? I haven't got the capacity for this right now. But then I clicked into the email and it said, "Congratulations, you've won." And just remember that feeling of just like shock. Like I just even still now, like, I mean, we'll touch on the actual 2 weeks that we had there, 3 weeks that we had there, but like even still now, like the whole thing just kind of, it's hard to get our heads around, like that it actually happened. Like,
one.
Yeah, there are certain things that happen in your life where everything aligns, and all the hard work that you've done gets kind of put together into one kind of event, into one thing happening, and it becomes very meaningful.
Yeah,
it becomes very meaningful, and it's kind of sort of becomes like a guiding light to where doubts creep in, and you're asking yourself whether this is really worth it, or whether you really got a shot at your dream. You know, that's like, hey, this is nourishment to keep me on that path, even although that path might be steep and rocky and difficult. Like, I've now seen that, you know, there is possibilities there. There's other people recognizing talent here. If other people from that brand are recognizing that in us, maybe then we can believe in ourselves as well. You know, it's very, the reason why it resonates so much with me, guys, I don't know if you know this, but the start of my DJ career was winning a competition. Did you know that?
Yeah, I think you told us on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I won a competition called the IDJ Raw Talent Competition. I don't want to make this about me, but I just want to illustrate it because that's why it resonates with me. I entered a competition, which was a prestigious DJ competition at the time. Nick Fanciulli was one of the judges, amongst a couple of other people as well. I ended up winning it, and that was a moment like you've just described. That was that same moment for me. You know, that was 20 years ago. It was in 2005, and I realized, I was like, this is not just a pipe dream. There is something here that's worth exploring. I don't know how far I'm going to get with it, but this kind of sets me now on the path to be brave and keep charging ahead and to keep following that dream and see where that takes me, and whether that's going to be like, just experiences that I have that I can look back on like 10, 15 years later, or a career. I don't know yet, but like, I know it's going to set me on that path. And I feel that's probably a similar moment that it was like for you, right?
Definitely. I think both collectively, there's never something we've wanted more in our lives than to win this competition. I know that kind of sounds corny or cheesy, but like, it was genuinely the thing we've probably wanted most. Like,
once we made the 10,
yeah, once we made the 10, it was every single conversation we had was like, we're going to win this thing. And I've never really manifested much before, but Bailey kind of brought on the manifesting for this one. And literally every conversation we had, we're just saying like, we're winning this thing, we're winning this thing, we're winning this thing.
I love it.
And yeah, it kind of felt like that kind of inspired us to just give it our all. And yeah, just to win it was just such a surreal experience.
And and that gave you that unleashed your creativity and your perseverance and your competitiveness, to go like, hey, we haven't gone this far to let somebody else win it. Like, we're gonna bring this one over the line. Congratulations, guys. Really amazing story. So then what happened then? At what point did they get in touch and says like, here are plane tickets from Australia, you're coming over, this is the show that you're playing? Like, so how was it dealing with the team and all that, and then what happened then?
Honestly, can't speak highly enough of the team. Like, they looked after us so well. Like, it's a whole different experience what we've ever been used to. Obviously, a lot of the time, like, we're the ones that are doing the I guess, hosting and reaching out to people and booking people and whatever. But to have like the way they treated us, so they treated us like we were their celebrity, like the celebrity headliners for the whole experience. It just made it so special for us. Like I said, we can't speak highly enough of them. So they kind of reached out a couple of weeks later. Itza, shout out Itza, the project coordinator for ANTS, and she said, your debut at Ushuaia is going to be on September 6th. And then we were just like, still like, is this really happening? And then after that was kind of the conversations around booking our flights, which is still wild. The fact that they flew us out from Oz, like, that was just really hard to get around.
Especially because like in all the things that were listed as winning the competition, flights weren't included in that. And especially from Australia, flights are like £2,500, 3,000 Aussie dollars. So like £1,500 almost. And so to be
it's
like,
not cheap.
No, so to be flown out as artists, it's honestly such an exciting.
Even like once we got there, like you might have seen a bit of the content. Like, they were co-hosting all the content with us. They had a billboard up with us, which just so be it was literally across the road from the hotel.
That must have been surreal.
Yeah.
That must have been surreal. Did you? I hope you've got plenty of pictures under the billboard.
Yeah, like they even brought them in. Like pretty much every activity they had planned with us. So we had like a mix with Ibiza Sonica. We had a masterclass with Alpha Theta, who are Pioneer, and a few other bits as well. But they sent their media team out every time. So we've got like content there. Like you said, even if 10, 15 years down the line, we can look back on the whole experience. Like, it's all been captured properly. And just like so Sophia, who's does the marketing and socials for them, she was mainly the one we were dealing with the most. Like, she was just looking after us so well, like sorting us out, obviously, with tickets for the clubs and like whatever, anything we needed, they were just there to be helpful. And they're also like so polite and so accommodating, I guess, of us. So just the whole experience, like, it just lights the fire in you to come back and work even harder to just like, hopefully turn that into like a thing that we can be doing full time for a living and traveling the world and having those amazing experiences.
Amazing. And so like when it came to the actual show, you stayed longer than after that. Did they put you up for the entire time? How did it work? Did you end up extending and just sort of diving into the Ibiza life again? Because I know you've been going every year since I've known you.
So we flew out on the 26th of August and we flew home on the 18th of September or the 16th of September. So we got a week and a bit before show day to pretty much acclimatise. So obviously a lot of partying. We did a fair bit of exploring on the island this time. It was the first trip to Ibiza. We've actually did a bit of exploring because we were there for, I think, 16 nights in total. We were in Ibiza. So the way it worked was we arrived on a Wednesday and then we didn't play till the following Saturday. So yeah, in that time, as I said, lots of partying, exploring. Then we played on the Saturday. We flew out on the Tuesday to England for a few nights to see Bailey's girlfriend's family. And then because ANTS booked the flights, you can't book a return flight from a different destination. So we flew back to Ibiza for 2 more nights. And it turned out to be the best thing ever because at the end, of the 13 nights, we were in Ibiza for the first little stint. We were so because obviously 30 nights in Ibiza is pretty intense.
It's long.
Yeah, we were quite, we were almost low on morale. Like we're so booked for the trip, but we were starting to battle. And then we had a few days in England where we got to just recharge the batteries. And then as soon as we got to the airport to head back to Ibiza, the energy we just both got was insane. And then, we had 2 massive nights to finish the trip and then flew back home.
Nice one. And now sort of that you've been home for a few weeks now and sort of had time to digest it a little bit, or like what are your thoughts now? How are you thinking about the next year, about your brand, about your release strategy with releasing music? Like what are your thoughts going forward?
Yeah, so we're actually just in the middle of, like, we've done a couple planning sessions already, just in terms of, like you said, what the next 6 to 12 months looks like, because like I said before, once you got this, you got to grab it and run. You can't afford to take your foot off the gas. And the previous 2 winners of the ANTS Next Gen have kicked on very well. Obviously, Grant, us too.
Yeah.
Like he's like just going from here to here at the moment.
Yeah, he's doing great.
So it's great to see. Obviously, there's that progression. Obviously, he's got insane music and does really well with his socials as well. I think we've kind of identified that the next main thing for us is the music. In terms of just getting some really solid releases out there and just starting to build our profile in that regard. I think just with the way the industry is, it's very and just what we see with booking our parties and things, you can definitely tell the difference with artists that are kind of hitting, particularly with the younger crowds as well. And obviously time of years and things impacts that as well. So I guess arcing back to that, with our Switch parties, we've just literally launched tonight our summer season. So we're taking out Ibiza inspired. We're doing like a season. So we're not going to do, we're just doing 3 dates, November, December, and Feb. We've got some really cool artists on for those. And we're doing like a theme of the coastal mirage. So I guess we're taking inspiration from Paradise there, who they did Temples of the Sun last year. And then this year was Sands of Solaris. So just trying to bring, again, something a little bit more unique to our scene over here, because no one else does the seasonal thing or like dresses it up as a season. They just sort of have their brands and their parties, and that's it. And then next year we're looking at making the move over around May. So it'll be based in Manchester from May sort of through till pretty much the end of the year. I think just off that, it was actually yourself last time we spoke to you that kind of, like, I think you just mentioned that at some point you might have to move to where the action is. And then I
was literally going to ask about that just now, and it's great that you just confirmed that, and I'm hearing those plans for the first time as well. But like, this is something I guess I wanted to sort of unpack a little bit for the listeners, because there's many people from around the world listening and it could be relevant to them. The way this scene works, I think it's very hard to go full time if you're not part of two major hubs of electronic music in the world, right? Which is number 1, Europe, and number 2 is the States, right? So you can make a full career in the States. You'll never have to leave the States. It's a big enough market to sustain you by itself if you become big in that market. For everybody else, it's almost you have to live in Europe, because Europe is close to the States, but you can also go to South America real easy. And then obviously there's lots of events on in Europe that can sustain a career in itself. You've got Ibiza and whatnot. What kind of limitations do you think you would have if you remained solely Australia-based artists? Like, where do you think the ceiling is?
Yeah, I guess kind of the main thing you said, like in terms of limitations, is like not being in one of the two main markets, and being in Australia, like you're so far away from everything. So it's hard. Like you kind of need to make the move, otherwise you're just going to be stuck only playing in Australia. And unfortunately, because we're so far away from everything, you can't just hop on an hour flight and play in another country. So you're limited to just playing in Australia. So that would be the first thing, is being so far away. And then two, at the minute, as I said, I think we said at the start of the podcast, our house music's not really the main sound here at the minute. It's kind of that faster, ravey stuff. So I feel like if we were in that lane, we'd probably be excelling a lot more on a touring front. We might be like touring around the country a bit more. But yeah, so in terms of the sound, especially we really like that sort of UK house sound. By moving to the UK, it's hopefully where our sound can flourish. So yeah, I'd say they're the two main limitations.
I think just being up like in front of people too, like even obviously Ibiza, so everyone's kind of in and around there, but even just a few days we're around sort of Manchester, Liverpool, just the people we could kind of catch up with or saw out and about, and just I guess like being in front of people to have conversations that maybe lead to this or lead to that. Whereas when we're over here, we're kind of like, obviously we first met you because we just hit you up on Insta and you gave us the time of day, but not everyone's going to give you the time of day when you're like on different time zones and you're like, they don't know who you are. So the chance to, I mean, Manchester obviously is a hub, or the UK in general. So if there's an opportunity that we feel like we can get by going to meet people or going to showface an event, it's going to be so much easier. Or even like collaborating in studios, just stuff like that. It's going to be a whole lot easier rather than trying to cold email and DM people when you're literally a 24-hour flight away. So I think that's the other probably.
I mean, I think this is great that you guys are doing it. I think it shows, again, testament to going the extra mile. Like it's testament to going the extra mile, wanting to do everything you can to make this career happen, and being close to the action is obviously very, very important for artists. Being in the mix, talking to people, meeting promoters, going to parties, introducing yourselves, and then when the music starts hitting and you're hitting those labels that you want to hit, and they can also put a face to the name, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, guys, all right, you won ANTS, all right, and you're like, I've seen you at this party, I've seen you there, I've played your EP, and one thing leads to another. That's how you get the ball rolling. Really following where the action is. So that's music to my ears that you're doing that. Are you going to be based in the UK mostly? Or are you going to be traveling around Europe? We're going to do some Ibiza trips as well, I assume, right?
Yeah, so we'll definitely be doing a fair bit of traveling once we're over there. As you know, most things like an hour or two flight, but we're going to be based in Manchester. So we were speaking to the Murphy's Law boys. Obviously, we've had them at our party. I've toured them before, and Finn from Murphy's Law, he lives in Manchester, and he was raving on about how good the scene is there. It's cheaper than London as well. And we've heard from a few people that Manchester's just a really bubbling place. So we thought that could definitely be the place to set up shop. And yeah, hopefully there's a few Ibiza gigs that we can get next year. ANTS said they'll have us back every year. So that's obviously an amazing thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you've already got that. You've already got that confirmation that you've got your presence on the island. That is huge. Like this is going to be eyes on you like every year from then on. If you then keep backing that up with hot releases, landing on the right labels, like what happened to Grant from us too. Like he's obviously like he started with his brother, but now he's solo. That can happen to you. And it was really the same thing, winning that competition and then just backing it up with solid releases and being in the mix, and then, landing an agent and taking it from there. Super inspirational, guys. How are you financing it all, like in terms of being in Europe over the summer? Are you saving up for that? Are you working out here? Like how is it all going to work?
Yeah, so we've both sort of said once we were over there in Ibiza, said it's like as soon as we get back, we're just going to work like absolute savages to kind of save up as much as possible So like, we'll be doing a lot of like bar gigs as well, where they're kind of just non-advertised. You're playing background music, but bar gigs play really well. So yeah,
Pays the bills.
Pays the bills. Yeah. So just picking up a lot of them over the summer. That's probably the most saving up, and then obviously working full time as well. And it's kind of any other ways. Actually trying to look at getting like a labouring job on a Saturday day as well. Just work like absolute savages, like for the next 9 months before we go. It's probably not going to be the most enjoyable time because we're going to be working so hard, and then obviously can't neglect the studio time. But yeah, just got to do pretty much everything to save up as much as possible. And
well, this is kind of what it takes. And the reason why I'm laughing is just because it's like, you know, like this is what it takes really. And this is why I wanted to have this interview with you guys, because it's going to be so inspirational to people that are on Dojo. It's like, you know, you stack and work upon work upon work. It's because like you're working extra hard so you can stay out in Europe. But then, you know, when you're in Europe, you've got to be working extra hard to sort of make a splash in the scene, you know, like making the music. And it doesn't really stop. And it doesn't stop for a long time. It's just the intensity level keeps increasing and increasing and increasing as your career progresses. And at some point, you're just like, Jesus Christ, it's like 7 days a week now. And it's been 7 days a week for like a year and a half, you know, because like during the week it's making music and running your socials, and then at the weekend it's touring, and it's just full on. But like when the passion is there, like you find the resources, you find the energy, and yeah, I mean the experiences that come along the way from sort of being competitive and, you know, going after what you want, that I think is like such a great reward. I love the spirit, guys. So based in Manchester, which is, I think, great. Obviously they've got Warehouse Project, they've got many other parties. Josh Baker's from there, Enzo Siragusa lives out there, a bunch of other artists as well. So like plenty of places where you can network and kind of sort of get immersed in the scene. In terms of music, like do you have anything signed yet? What's planned? Like what are you aiming for?
We haven't got anything signed at the minute. That's the kind of that's our main focus at the minute. Just trying to what we're finding at the moment is harder to get the tunes even listened to. By like different ones we've sent out, like it is what it is. Like people are busy and that kind of thing. So we're just trying to follow up.
Just crazy.
Yeah, which we totally understand. It just is what it is. But we're really pushing hard to try and just get some. We haven't got any official releases locked in. We've got a bunch of edits that we'll just use to keep things ticking over. In the meantime, we're getting like a bunch of downloads and support for promos as well, which is always obviously a good sign too. But yeah, like the main thing for us,
self-releasing is always an option, you know. And I would always just encourage that as well, in terms of like, if you got momentum and you want to capitalize that momentum, but you can't wait for that unpredictability of when you're going to get your next release signed, when that's even getting slotted in the release schedule of the label, you know, but you want to keep momentum going. So you want to have music out on the regular basis, you know, like the self-releasing route it's the same as the DJing thing, right? It's like people always go like, well, why did you start a party? Because couldn't get any gigs and I wanted a DJ, right? And then it's like, why did you start your own label? And it was like, nobody wanted to sign my music. It's literally the same for me as well. But that's very common. But once, you know, like you got that foot in the door for the next label, and the next one after that, and the next one after that, things are going to get a lot easier. After the first initial ones, you know.
Yeah.
And like you had support across the board for the EP that you did on Meta, which went really great, you know.
Yeah, I think it's kind of with getting your tunes listened to and played, it's kind of just getting the respect of the other artists. Like it's like once they know your name and they trust your music, they're going to play it. Like for example, you're seeing Us Two's music get played all the time, and Furzer as well. All these people are playing their music, and it's because their music's trusted by all these bigger DJs. So as you said, it's kind of like that snowball effect. Just need to get a few things rolling, and then things will just go from there. And like we're sitting on a stack of music as well. And it's not like there hasn't been interest in labels, but we just want it to be the right labels, like in the most respectful way possible. We don't just want to put music out on labels that probably aren't aligned or aren't going to push it correctly. So yeah, we're sitting on a stack of music, and there's a few things, a few potential labels that could potentially arise from the trip we just had, like a few people we spoke to, things that could pop up. But yeah, it's just about making the releases right, not just putting it out for the sake of it.
I would love to help on that as well. So if
that
you
would be amazing.
Package my way, I can pass it along to like some of the friends in the industry, because like obviously like I believe in your music and I've played it, and you know the tracks go off, and you know, it's just, to me, it's self-evident. It's only going to be a matter of time for you guys to keep landing on the labels that you want to land on, and then keep continuing on that journey of sort of striving for more and setting the next ambitious goal and then going after that. Guys, just in terms of music production, how does it work between the two as a duo? What's your workflow like? How do you work creatively together? How do you come up with ideas?
We kind of put aside time a couple times a month to sit in the studio together and start on tracks. Obviously, we're both quite busy and have our own lives as well. Like most of our lives, music, but just in terms of work commitments and other things like that. So we probably don't jump in the studio together as much as we'd like to. But in the meantime, obviously, we're both chipping away and working on different bits. And then we'll be always sending things back and forth. A big thing for us, we've also flagged, is we want to get better with our sampling and just like finding cool things that we can kind of flip. So we're like constantly sending each other different tracks and saying, well, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And then when we do get together in the studio, we kind of work on things together to polish them up and get them ready to send out. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, so as Bailey was saying, like obviously we both got our own commitments outside of this, like with work full time and family commitments and stuff, but pretty much every night each week, or at least 5 to 6 nights a week, we're both chipping away ourselves at home. And then there's probably a million videos we send each other each day of, oh, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? We'll both give feedback. And then, yeah, as often as we can, we'll get in the studio. So it's usually a few times a month, usually on the weekends. And then, yeah, we'll go through the things that we thought we've made best in that time. And then just put our brains together.
Like you said, the best thing about it is that, like with creativity, obviously you have lulls, peaks and troughs with it. So when I tend to find that when one of us is maybe not feeling it or not getting anything out that's like workable, then the other one's usually firing. So it's good in that regard that we can, like, the output's always there. But yeah, it's been good actually. It's been good to kind of join forces, so to speak.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable.
That's one of the great things of the dynamics of being in a duo. It's like you just always keep going and moving forward, you know. Even though one person might have run out of creative juices, the other one's still firing, as you said, you know. Yeah, that's awesome. Great to hear. And, you know, I can certainly hear it in the music, like the qualities just keeps going up and up and up. So it's definitely on the right path there. In terms of the ANTS competition, say I'm a young producer that wants to enter next year and I want to win, and I'm hungry just as you are to get that experience and to get my foot in the door with one of the most well-known electronic music brands in the world. How would you go about it? What are your tips for somebody entering the competition next year?
Yeah, so I probably have two main tips that I'd give. The first one would be back yourself, and I'll go into them in a second. The first one would be back yourself, and the second would be get creative. So in terms of backing yourself, play your own music. So we did an all originals mix, and the previous two winners, Us Two and Furza, they did an all originals mix, and there was over 1,500 people that entered. So to try and stand out in a mix from 1,500 people, it's almost impossible if you're just playing everyone else's music. It's like, why should they pick you? So you want to give them a reason to. And yeah, with going the all originals, they can see that there's something there. You're more than just a DJ. So that would be the first one. And then the second, in terms of getting creative, is I'm just assuming here, but I assume that ANTS want to see the full package, not that you're just a DJ or a producer. But the scene these days, you need to be so much more than just a DJ and producer. You need to be marketable as well. So that's why we got really creative with the promo assets, and you want to give them something to see that's sellable. So yeah, that'd be my two tips.
Yeah, I think Shaw's pretty much covered it, but yeah, just be authentic, be yourself, be creative as well. Like, yeah, I think it's pretty. You're missing opportunity if you think that just because you've got given this one asset to use from them, that's all you should do. I think, like, if you really want something, you need to go after it. And at the end of the day, like, one bit of advice that we picked up, I can't remember where we picked it up, but we often said to each other, at the end of the day, because it's just the person making a decision. So every big moment in your life primarily comes down to someone making a decision. Yeah, I think it might have been Stephen Bartlett actually. So end of the day, like there was 1,500 applicants and we got picked from a panel of 5 people to just people at the other end of the line. They want to see something in you, I guess. So just, do everything you can in your power. Don't worry about what other people are thinking. Just be yourself and it'll come out and you'll get the results.
Yeah, that was one other thing that I was going to say is just who cares what anyone else thinks? I know there's been many times, and especially filming these videos, like say, for example, we didn't win, we'd probably look like absolute clowns, and a lot of people would be saying, look at these clowns. They did all that effort. But at the end of the day, like, who cares? And Josh Baker, I think it might have been on the Defected podcast recently, he put it perfectly. He's like, I think I might be paraphrasing here, but it's like on the other side of being cringe is greatness, essentially. So sometimes things are going to come across as cringe, but to do, like, you need to do those things to stand out.
Absolutely. I think that's a great one to end on, because also, I think like putting yourself out there on social media can feel uncomfortable to a lot of people. And I've certainly struggled with that as well. And I'm like, am I playing it up too much? But at the end of the day, like that's part of being able to promote yourself and getting comfortable with that. It doesn't have to be your favorite thing, but just getting comfortable with it. And then kind of getting an attitude there where like sort of criticism is just like, okay, like, you do your thing, I do mine, and it's just water off a duck's back. Having that kind of attitude helps a lot. And not worrying too much what other people think, just eyes on the goal and going for that. That's, I think, is a beautiful one to end on. Thanks for these insights, guys.
No, I just thank you.
If you enjoy this conversation, if you enjoy this podcast, please like, comment, subscribe. Everything helps. And I'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks, man.